Good evening to you all. A very warm welcome to ETV News. I'm Grum Tariku. Ethiopia announced that it has managed to secure the peaceful release of 6 Djiboutian army members who were held hostage by fraud militants. In a press statement delivered on Wednesday, December 21st, by Faisal Shaul, Director General of African Affairs with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ethiopian government said it secured the release through careful intelligence and police operation in tandem with traditional support mechanisms from the Afar Regional Administration and local elders. The ambassador said that the army members were handed over to the government of Djibouti, pointing out that Ethiopia and Djibouti are working together to enhance cooperation in peace and security. It is to be recalled that 6 Djiboutian army members went missing after the armored fraud attacked an army post in an area called Garabat Tisan in the Tajurah region on October 6, 2022. Tigrayan scholars and youth have expressed readiness to discharge their responsibility to maintain the fruits of the Pretoria Agreement that marks the end of hostilities between Addis Ababa and TPLF. The scholars and youth drawn from the northernmost and war-torn state of Tigray discussed the process of national reform, the implementation of peace agreement, the reconstruction efforts in the state, and their role in ensuring the country's development endeavors. Kasam Chani has the details on this.
Briefing scholars and Tigray elites, Chief Government Whip at the Parliament Tesfaye Beljige and Coordinator for Democracy System Building Center with the rank of the Minister, Zadig Abraham noted that the government is working tirelessly to maintain the fruits of the peace agreement. According to the officials, the government is carrying out reform initiatives meant to address Ethiopia's political, economic and social problems from their roots. The third internal and external problems were encountered in a course of reform activities, citing the war in northern Ethiopia as one such incident. The participants for their part appreciated the government's endeavor to ensure peace and development in the country. Activities meant to ensure lasting peace in Tigray, spearheaded by the federal government, must be pressed ahead. The third.
In the event, we have discussed the value of working together. We have shown commitment to the implementation of the peace deal by standing in unison. In particular, we should back efforts directed at rebuilding the demolished infrastructure in the state using our knowledge, capacity, and so on. I can assure you that we remain stalwart for the realization of this worthwhile objective.
They further underscored that the peace agreement has come as a glimmer of hope to the people of Tigray for being part of a nationwide reform and rebuilding Tigray after 2 years of bloody war.
This peace deal has hugely impacted the body politic of Tigray, and this it has snapped the people of Tigray out of the abyss. Together we will roll up our sleeves for the implementation of this historic deal and rebuild Tigray.
Ethiopia's federal government and leaders in the war-torn Tigray region signed a peace accord on 2 November, followed by an implementation deal 10 days later.
With this peace deal, I believe the people of Tigray will be blessed with scores of advantages, for instance, rethinking our relationship with our Ethiopians and the value of working together within a democratic federal government. That, I believe, is a home-take assignment for us in the post-war Tigray.
Participants called upon all parties to act responsibly to build a solid foundation for peace.
The National Disaster Risk Management Commission, NDRMC, stated that more than 8.3 million people have received first-round humanitarian assistance since the Pretoria Peace Agreement was signed. NDRMC Commissioner Ambassador Shifarau Teklemariam discussed with representatives of international partners and donors on areas of priority in the relief operation process. It is stated that on the occasion that humanitarian assistance is being delivered steadfastly to people affected by the conflict in Amhara, Tigray and Afar regions. The commissioner elaborated that 8,358,196 people have received first-round humanitarian assistance since the Pretoria Peace Agreement was signed between the federal government and TPLF. Currently, 29 international relief organizations are involving in relief operation in Tigray region, according to the commissioner, who expressed gratitude to aid agencies and donors for the unfettered humanitarian support. Ethiopia, home to 120 million people, is one of the world's most drought-prone countries. But to reduce vulnerability to hydrometeorological hazards and natural disasters, it has embarked on the Green Legacy Initiative. This is a policy by far most consequential and expected to yield a resilient economy. The initiative has gripped the globe by surprise for its outstanding success, so much so that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was awarded Outstanding African Leadership Award in recognition of the Green Legacy Initiative in mid-December. In the following piece, our staff reporter Tigis Saresa walks us through the initiative.
Our current world is gravely affected by the consequences of climate change. And Ethiopia's immediate and practical approach to addressing the pressing climate change issues was the Green Legacy Initiative. The Green Legacy Initiative, launched in June of 2019, is rooted in a vision of building a green and climate resilient Ethiopia, spearheaded by His Excellency Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed. The target was set of planting 20 billion seedlings within a period of 4 years, and exceeding the original plan, it was able to plant 25 billion seedlings, mobilizing 25 million Ethiopians across the nation.
For Ethiopia, climate change mitigation and adaptation over the past 4 years have been anchored in concrete action, exchanging mere talk for actionable walk. A nation has stood firm and chosen to act rather than react.
Ethiopia as a nation has gained remarkable achievements due to this Green Legacy Initiative. By 2022, the Green Legacy Initiative has fostered a flourishing national green culture, tripling the number of seedlings nurseries to more than 121,000, creating over 750,000 jobs, mostly for women and girls, and generating 1.3 billion Ethiopian birr in income.
As a direct outcome of the Green Legacy Initiative, 1.3 billion in ETB income was created, mostly for youth and women, where a significant amount started their own businesses.
There is no doubt that to literally sowing seeds today will bear fruit across generations to come, reducing carbon emissions, environmental degradations, and to be able to have increased rain in dry areas. It is to be recalled that on the 13th of December, Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed was awarded the Outstanding African Leadership Award on an event held in the sidelines of US Africa Summit in the United States, recognizing Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative as an African success story.
In an effort to strengthen regional cooperation for climate resilience, Ethiopia has expanded its Green Legacy Initiative to neighboring countries by sharing its seedlings. Life, after all, begins as a seed. This is Ethiopia's Green Legacy. Our legacy. Your legacy.
Reporting to you, Tigis Saresa.
countries around the world use opportunities in various forms of platform.
It is high time for Africa to become a domestic tourism market. This is the time for us to produce what we consume.
How would that platform would impact the entire Africa?
The unity of Africa is here. It resides here in Addis Ababa.
Exactly opposite what the media is trying to portray to those who are outside Ethiopia.
What has really motivates you to work on tourism?
Africa Union kindly help African countries to open the sky of Africa.
Thank God we have a country like Ethiopia.
The entire African continent is an import-driven economy.
We should go back to that, Ubuntu. Everybody owns everything. Nobody owns anything.
You are watching ATV News. The need for a fair and equitable representation of Africa at the UN Security Council has resurfaced of late. Echoing this need at the world's security powerhouse was India's foreign minister, who called on African nations to vigorously and aggressively work for this to happen. The historical injustice which nurtured Africa's isolation must come to a halt, it was pointed out. Goshumel So takes it from here.
The UN Security Council has 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent members. Now less than 70 to 75 of all these issues discussed in the governmental body revolve around Africa. But it remains lamentable that no African country is represented in the UN Security Council. That is historical injustice according to India's foreign minister, who stressed and added that reforming the UN Security Council is a clarion call of the time.
We have convened here today for an honest conversation about the effectiveness of multilateral institutions created more than 75 years ago. That the question of equitable representation on and increase in the membership of the Security Council has been on the UNGA agenda for well over 3 decades. Member states from Latin America, Africa, Asia, and small island developing states should have credible and continuing representation in the Security Council. Decisions about the future can no longer be taken without their participation. Equally important is to make working methods and processes of the global institutions, including this Council, more accountable, objective, and transparent.
The historical injustice to the 54 member states of Africa, with a population of more than 1.3 billion and a combined economy in excess of $3.5 trillion, must be prioritized.
While the quest for a permanent representation of Africa at the Council is taking shape, the proposed amount of seats has exceeded 4. Stakes say if and when this is realized, there is need to make sure that the seats goes to influential states in the continent known for being the beacons of Pan-Africanism. As it now stands, the continent doesn't even have a single voice amongst the permanent membership to defend its own interests. African states comprise nearly 28% of the UN's overall membership. Despite much time having been spent on African issues, many UN Security Council members have treated them as marginal or less strategic compared to Syria, North Korea, or the Middle East peace process. Russia has also joined the bandwagon of criticism at the UN Security Council. The denial of permanent seats for Africa in the United Nations Security Council is unacceptable by any standard, the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in early October this year. Denying Africa, which is home to many people with rich natural resources, a permanent seat in the Security Council shows that there is still colonial feeling, the ministry noted. Other African leaders have time and again hammered at the issue.
It is the right time to reform and revitalize the United Nations system to reflect current global realities and ensure that it is a more representative and equitable body. Only fair representation and transparency in those institutions can usher in a just era in multilateralism.
We want fairness, we want Africa to be well represented and to be heard, because it cannot be fair that 1.3 billion people's views and thoughts cannot be heard at that high level in the same way that the views of the countries which have a veto right are heard.
Africans are making it loud and clear that the root cause of most of the conflicts in Africa are the disputes and conflicts left behind by colonial rulers. Therefore, the freedom of Africans should be respected as they have the ability to solve problems in Africa by themselves, they underlined.
The United Nations World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, has recognized the Choke Mountains as Best Tourism Village of 2022. The Choke Mountains village is situated some 300 kilometers from Addis Ababa in the northwest in Dagadamo district of West Gwajam zone in the state of Amhara. Choke village is a community-based environmental protection ecosystem including amazing waterfalls, forests and wildlife, and Blue Nile watershed with unique flora and fauna. The World Tourism Organization gave the recognition to Choke Mountains cognizant of the activities underway in the village to preserve and promote natural and cultural heritages and community values.
The 17th Global
It's expected that Ethiopia is Ethiopians
Our news is always aired on Monday to Friday on 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. and also on Saturday and Sunday on 9 p.m. Make sure to follow us.
Welcome back, and you are watching ETV News. The senior management team of the state telecom provider Ethio Telecom, led by the CEO Freo Tamru, paid a visit in South Sudan. The delegation had a discussion with the Minister of Information, Communication and Postal Services, the National Communication Authority, and other South Sudanese ministers and senior leaders on a range of issues. South Sudanese authorities appreciated the initiative of the Ethio Telecom for exploring the telecom market in South Sudan and affirmed their readiness to provide all necessary support to Ethio Telecom in this endeavor. Fred Tamru, in her part, has stated that Ethio Telecom is the pioneering telecom operator in Africa and has been serving Ethiopia for over 128 years. A financial expert said the realization of the capital market system in Ethiopia will bring alternative financial opportunities. Back in 2021, Ethiopia has approved a proclamation for the establishment of capital market in the country, which is aimed to provide the legal foundation for such markets to flourish. A well-developed and vibrant capital market can also play a key role in the efficient allocation of financial resources to areas that they are needed most, generating the highest return for firms, enabling risk sharing and facilitating the flow of finance to more risky but high return projects. Johannes Fantano has sat down with the expert and compiled the following report. Take a look.
Cognizant of the role of capital markets, Ethiopia issued the Capital Markets Proclamation in 2021 to regulate a well-developed capital market. Preparatory activities are underway to the installation of fully-fledged capital markets in Ethiopia. Approached by ETV, financial legal expert with rich experience in capital markets said such market can strengthen the economy's resilience to shocks, mitigate the risk posed by an over-reliance on the bank-dominated financial sector, and impose the allocation of resources.
Capital markets is another form of finance. Essentially, it's longer-term finance as opposed to other kinds of finance that we think of. So when we think of capital markets, we think of the primary markets where you can fundraise. So this is where companies go to raise funds, or governments go to raise funds. And then we also think of the exchange or the market itself, where people buy and sell their securities. So in a broader sense, it is a longer-term form of finance.
Efforts to form the country's first ever capital market took a meaningful step since March this year, but there is a long way to realize an initiative floating around since the imperial era. A federal agency mandated to regulate stock exchange and bond market is under establishment. The law is comprehensive and opens up the financial sector for trading, not just share and bonds, but also derivatives and debt securities.
The preparatory work has been done primarily through a project that was established, a project team that was established by the National Bank of Ethiopia. And this project team, it's a group of 10 of us, together, we're all of different kinds of experiences and backgrounds. Together, we've been working on several points. One, establishing the CMA itself. Two, developing the regulatory framework. Three, working on the various means by which we're going to do capacity building and investor education. We've been looking at items in the broader economy to create an enabling environment. So some of the macroeconomic issues, issues relating to tax policy, all those things that are in place in other countries that have enabled the capital markets to flourish.
The capital market, which is underway to be established in Ethiopia, is expected to bring different financial opportunities. The experts seized the opportunity to urge Ethiopians to engage in the sector.
One of the things that I would like to draw other people's attention to is the opportunities that can come about through the capital markets. That could be through opportunities for their own businesses if they're looking for financing, but also if it's opportunities for jobs, for example. This is something to consider. This is a new area of employment for a lot of people. We will need people. The ecosystem will need people, whether it's in investment advisors, brokers, dealers, accounting profession, finance professional, legal profession. All of those people have a new opportunity in this capital markets, and I hope just to draw everyone's attention to that.
For the realization of capital market in Ethiopia, a roadmap with market development, infrastructure development, capacity development and policy reviews as its major pillars was released with a 10-year implementation plan.
In sports news,